Today was one of the worst days of my life. The air was thick, the forest too quiet. Every step felt like something was watching us, something that wasn't human. We found her curled up under a rotted log, barefoot, shivering, her eyes wide, unblinking, and she kept about a man with black eyes smiling at her from the trees.
I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time, they just wander off the path or slip down a small cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old stay where you are thing, so they don't wander far. But I've had two cases where that didn't happen. Both of them bother me a lot, and I use them as motivation to search even harder on the missing persons cases I get called on. The first was a little boy. He was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them went missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for just a few seconds. In that short time, both kids apparently wandered off. When their parents couldn't find them, they called us. We came out to search the area. We found the daughter pretty quickly. When we asked where her brother was, she told us that he'd been taken away by the bear man. She said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet. He wanted to play with her brother for a while. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulders of the bear man, and he seemed calm. Of course, our first thought was abduction, but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was insistent. He wasn't a normal man. He was tall, covered in hair, like a bear, she said, and he had a weird face. We searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, but we never found a single trace of that kid. The second case was a young woman. She was hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she never came back down. They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name. Eventually, they called for help. We searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could have gone. Neither her mother nor her grandpa saw her come down. A few times I've been out on my own searching with a canine, and they've tried to lead me straight up cliffs. Not hills, not even steep rock faces. Straight, sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling. In those cases, we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff or miles away from where the canine led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. One particularly sad case involved the recovery of a body. A 9-year-old girl had fallen down an embankment and got impaled on a dead tree at the base. It was a complete freak accident. But I'll never forget the sound her mother made when we told her what had happened. She saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance and let out the most haunting, heartbroken wail I've ever heard. It was like her whole life crashed down around her, like a part of her had died with her daughter. I heard from another SAR officer. She killed herself a few weeks later. She couldn't live with the loss. I was teamed up with another SAR officer. We'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip. We had to do some serious climbing to get to where we figured he'd be. We found him, trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. It wasn't pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days. His leg was badly infected. We got him into a chopper. One of the EMTs told me the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine until he got to the top. There was a man there, he said. The guy had no climbing equipment. He wore a parka and ski pants. He walked up to him, and when he turned around, he had no face, just blank. The climber freaked out. He tried to get off the mountain too fast. That's why he fell. He said he could hear the man all night, climbing down the mountain, letting out horrible, muffled screams. That story really bothered me. I'm glad I wasn't there to hear it. One of the scariest things I've ever experienced was the search for a young woman who got separated from her hiking group. We were out late that night. The dogs had picked up her scent. We found her curled up under a large, rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack. She was clearly in shock. She had no injuries. We got her to walk with us back to base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking why that big man with black eyes was following us. We couldn't see anyone. We figured it was just shock. But the closer we got to base, the more agitated she became. She asked me to tell him to stop making faces at her. Then she stopped and turned around. She yelled into the forest, saying she wanted him to leave her alone. She said she wasn't going to go with him, and she wouldn't give us to him either. We finally got her to move again. But then we started hearing weird noises all around us. It was almost like coughing, but rhythmic, deeper, insect-like. I don't know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turned to me. Her eyes were as wide as I've ever seen on a human face. She reached out, touched my shoulder, and said, "He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck." I have a very small scar on the base of my neck. It's mostly hidden under my collar. There's no way she could have seen it. Right after she said it, I heard that weird coughing right in my ear. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to base ops, trying not to show how freaked out I was, but I was really, really glad. When we left that area that night, this is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this happens in every SAR unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking other SAR officers about it, but even if they know, they probably won't say anything. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, 30 or 40 miles in, we'll find a staircase just sitting there in the middle of the woods. It's like someone took the stairs out of a house and dropped them deep in the forest. The first time I saw one, I asked about it, and the other officer just said, "Don't worry about it, it's normal." Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to check them out, but I was told very emphatically, never go near them. So now, when I run into one, I just ignore it, because it happens so frequently. This is the complete and optimized version of your story for AI voice narration, including emotional pacing and tags, ready to copy and paste directly into 11 Labs or any narration tool. Let me know if you'd like it broken down further into scenes or parts.